Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of True Believers here on the Fandom Podcast Network. We got a big show for you tonight. We're covering the season 1 finale of Daredevil Born Again, episode 9, Straight to Hell. Absolutely huge episode. We're just going to jump right into it, which means I need to have my top-notch law firm of Wagner, Reitzel, and Cat with me. Plus, we might be bringing in a little outside counsel, too. But let me start by introducing the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, my brother from another mother, and he somehow manages to land all the ladies, even with a nickname of Raider Nerd. But you know what? It is the one and only Mr. Kevin Reitzel.
Daredevil, baby. I'm excited. This is going to be an interesting discussion. We got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do. And we're going to keep going right away because you know what? He is a Marvel. He knows his Marvel, especially his Deadpool, but he's a big Daredevil fan too, and he's kind of our enforcer here. He's our heavy.
He also likes Hawkeye too, just so you know.
Yeah, that's very true. And let's not say, and we'll discuss the Taskmaster later, but the one and only Mr. Cat Cedar.
Hey, I also like Moon Knight too. Don't forget him.
You do.
Oscar Moon Knight gets a little touchy and sensitive, so I don't know which version of him I'm going to get. So I want to make sure I get it right when I talk about Moon Knight.
That's a tough one. I like him well.
Yeah. But this week, because we are talking the season finale of Daredevil Born Again, which was an absolutely huge episode, we are bringing in a great friend of the Fandom Podcast Network. He knows a lot about a lot of things. He is the one and only John Mosby.
Oh.
You're having a little technical difficulty there, John.
We can't hear you.
Still can't hear you. I'm gonna pop you out of the room and pop you back in and see if it clears up. Hold on.
All right.
Try talking, John. Nope. Okay. You work on your technical and
John, pop out of the room and then pop back in again, and we'll get you going.
Yep. So, guys, as I said, though, John will be joining us momentarily once he gets his technical issues put out. Kingpins must be messing with his power supply. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I know that Kingpin. He's back, man.
Yeah. Oh, he's back with a vengeance.
White suit and all. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are here to talk about Daredevil Born Again here on this episode of True Believers on the Fandom Podcast Network, where we cover all the great things happening in the MCU. But when we do talk about Daredevil and talk about anything on the True Believers, we have a way we're going to do it. But two, before we get there, we just want to remind you all, we have a lot of great things on the Fandom Podcast Network. And now if you scan the QR code on your screen, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, it will take you to the fpnet.podbean.com page, which is the home to all of our amazing audio podcasts. And you can listen to everything we've done here on the Fandom Podcast Network. You might not be better for it, and you might be. I don't know, Kevin. You've used that QR code enough. Are you doing okay?
It works, and I think I saw John Mosby backstage trying to do it too. So let's see if he's see if we got him going here.
Yeah, let's see if we got John back. Are you back with us, John?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
we can hear you now.
Yes, I'm scanning the QR code as you speak. There we go.
There we go.
Good to have you, sir.
Good to be back. Seems like a minute ago.
He's always bouncing in and out. He might be a Time Lord or something. I don't know, but just a reminder too to everybody that this is a spoiler reaction show. We are going to be talking about a ton of things that happened in the season finale of Daredevil Born Again. In fact, we are so serious about our spoilers. Cap and Tony are here to trigger this. That's right. Spoilers ahead. If you have not watched the season finale at this point, go watch it, come back, join us on YouTube or on the audio version of this show, and join us for everything that we got to talk about here with Daredevil Born Again and the season finale. Kevin, we do things a little differently here at True Believers than any of our other podcasts. Would you care to explain to the fans out there how we do things on True Believers?
We got phases. We got phases, and we have to explain that. So we don't have segments. We got phases. So phase 1, we're going to have the plot description, any first reactions, and any cast comments. Phase 2, we're going to have trivia and Easter eggs and possible cameos. And then phase 3, we're going to have the plot analysis, ties to the MCU comics, deep dives, and the article reviews. And we're going to wrap things up with phase 4, our final thoughts and predictions to next season.
Yes, we are excited. And for those of you who have been following True Believers the whole way through Daredevil Born Again, all of our episodes are up on the network and on our YouTube page, starting with, of course, the double drop of episodes 1 and 2 through all of the episodes, including the second double drop of episodes 5 and 6 through episode 8. And this episode will be on there shortly. Now, guys, I think it's time. We need to kind of power up that Tesseract and get ready for phase 1. So, Kevin, are we glowing? Is it glowing?
We're
over there?
going. Let's do it.
Okay, let's kick off some Tesseract. Mr. Reitzel, would you be so kind as to go into the Mighty Marvel Handbook and give us the plot description for this week's episode of Daredevil Born Again, Straight to Hell?
All right. Phase 1 plot description, episode 9, Straight to Hell. A year earlier, Vanessa visits Dex to ask him to kill Nelson in exchange for his freedom. In the present, Dex escapes the ball while Murdock is hospitalized. Fisk realizes to Vanessa that he knows she orchestrated Nelson's death. Fisk orders Cashman to kill Murdock and cuts off the power to New York City. Cashman attempts to kill Murdock at the hospital, but Murdock escapes to his apartment, where he finds Frank Castle waiting for him. The AVTF arrives at the apartment where Murdock and Castle incapacitate and kill all except North. The pair learn that North killed Ayala, but Murdock resists killing him. Fleeing the apartment, the pair are met by Karen Page, who returned after learning Dex escaped and asked Castle to protect Murdock. Chaos breaks out in the city. Perpetuated by the AVTF, Murdock and Page reconnect while they track down Nelson's Red Hook case, discovering that the Fisks are trying to establish a city-state. Castle fights the ATF in Red Hook, but is defeated. Powell tries to get him to join them, but Castle rejects him. Gallo attempts to betray Fisk, but is exposed and murdered by Fisk. Fisk offers Glenn the position of mental health commissioner, which she accepts. In a speech, Fisk declares martial law and outlaws vigilantism. Murdock decides to assemble an army to save the city. Fisk imprisons vigilantes in Red Hook, including the swordsman himself, Duquesne, and Castle. In a post-credit scene, Castle tricks a prison guard and begins to break free.
Great job, Mr. Reitzel. We got some great people here to weigh in on this. But, John, you are first time joining us on True Believers to talk Daredevil. So not only do I want to get your thoughts on the season finale real quick, I do want to get your thoughts so far on your experience with Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody, I really enjoyed the Netflix series. It felt like the first really firm step that Marvel had done on TV. I know they'd done, obviously, there's things like Agent Carter and everything out there, but I think everybody agrees the start of the Netflix era was what really sort of gave Marvel some kudos, and it was darker than people expected. Now we have this, obviously moving along from the Netflix era, but sharing a lot of DNA. I wasn't sure what to expect. I think, like most people, it was like, okay, you've got me already with the Netflix series. Are you going to be as good? So yeah, I've been genuinely impressed by this. I think it pressed all the right buttons. I think I think we all know about the fact of the delays with COVID and everything changing a lot of things changing behind the scenes. I think that helped it. Pretty much a good balance. Much darker than I expected Marvel to go. I thought they may pull back on it. But yeah, it kind of surprised that we left it the way we did. It's the first season that's felt slightly, obviously not self-contained. There's been things running through, but it very much feels like, what's past is prologue, a bit like the Empire Strikes Back kind of moment where you don't leave things in a good place. Thankfully, we know there's a second season coming. I know we'll discuss that later. So yeah, genuinely thoroughly impressed with this.
And what did you think of the finale in itself? As far as what we said in the finale?
I mean, again, I wasn't sure. I kind of expected this to be like not a conclusion, but I knew there was a second season coming. But I felt it was more open ended than I expected it to be. Setting up very much the stuff that's going to happen in the confirmed second season. A lot darker, a lot more violent. I think we have to agree on that. But yes, I mean, fantastically shot, well acted. Again, it was just the moment I thought things would be slightly more rounded off a little bit than they were. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Everybody I know that's seen it enjoyed it to some. It's always been at the top end of the scale of what people have expected. So yeah, thoroughly impressed.
Mr. Cat, I mean, you have been a Daredevil on board from day one. We've talked about our love for this series. I got a feeling though that maybe the finale wasn't all you were hoping it was going to be.
I wanted more. I wanted to see what I thought I would, and didn't see any more Muse, which I'm disappointed. But hopefully next season we'll see him come back. But I mean, there were some scenes that were really dark and really good. I mean, you showed one of them with the Kingpin just using his might like he did in the comic, tomato paste in the guy's head, which was great. But I mean, all in all, it was a great episode. All of them have been really good. Couple questionable ones in the middle that were like, why is this episode coming out now? But yeah, I wish we would have had Muse at the end instead of Frank escaping. But we'll see what happens next season.
Mr. Wright, so what about you? What were your thoughts on the finale?
I wasn't sure if Frank was coming back or not. A friend of mine who's more in tune to the leaks and everything like that says, now he's coming back. I saw something. So I was just like, okay, I was going to be curious how they're going to tie him in. And I was happy with the way they did with Karen and all. And it was nice to see him come back and then them work together. And then, we'll get into it, but this was a violent episode. And I didn't have a problem with it. I've seen a lot of violence in films, but this one definitely stepped up. We'll get into that later. But there are some great character moments in this as well. I knew they were going to leave something on a cliffhanger. I just wasn't sure how, because we have a confirmed season 2 coming. So I wasn't sure how it was going to end. And I'm not going to say I was disappointed, but I'm not going to say it was like the best thing ever. But it was okay. It did what I think it needed to do to bridge till the next season and to really kind of give us a lot to talk about, a lot to think about, and where they're going to go and who they might introduce next season. And we'll talk about that too later.
I thoroughly enjoyed the finale. It went in some directions I wasn't expecting. I did expect to see Frank Castle back, and he was back in spades, and we got the Punisher that we've been wanting to see since he was announced to come back. I love the fact that they brought Karen Page back. I think this is a crucial moment and a crucial character to bring back into the series. Not only because we talked about this some last episode where Matt was kind of struggling because he didn't really have the people who were his rudder. And I think bringing Karen back will help kind of focus Matt more and kind of balance him out a little bit. And I like that they even played up a little bit on the Karen-Frank relationship as well. And some of that was going on. Obviously, seeing Vincent D'Onofrio cut loose completely as the Kingpin is always an amazing thing to see. And he did that in this episode as well. Kevin, you wanted to interject?
Yeah, I was trying to remember because it's been a while since I've seen the Netflix series total. How much relationship do we get between Frank and Karen?
They have a pretty strong bond. They established that especially in not only Daredevil season 3, but in the Punisher series as well.
Okay. Were they an item, or were they really good friends and cared for each other? It
was kind of like there was a chemistry there, but if she wouldn't go there and they stayed good friends. But there's definitely like a bit of attraction there, but she's in love with Matt.
Right.
So, but guys, too, I want to just bring up real quick while I've got everybody here, and with the finale, we saw a lot of people in it. So let's talk about it. Any cast and crew observations that you guys just want to highlight real quick before we move on into our next phase? Mr. Mosby.
I think the only problem, I mean, you've got a stellar quality cast there. My only problem is perhaps that it's a quite large cast, in the sense that I think perhaps towards the end, a few characters came back in. You're going, oh yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about Miss Urich and stuff. She hasn't been necessarily that well used. There's great supporting cast, and I think there's obviously lots of potential for other them to be explored next season. But there's just been so many moving parts that I think one of the few criticisms, and certainly not to the extent of a lot of other Marvel series, I think some didn't get the pacing has often been off in a lot of Marvel series. I thought the pacing, while not perfect, was a lot better than Marvel have had to date. But there's been so many supporting characters that it's been a little, oh yeah, I'd forgotten about this character, or yes, what is happening with that character? So yeah, again, a stellar quality cast. Everybody did really fantastically well. I want to see where all the characters, who survived go from here. So yeah, I mean, it's of all the Marvel series to date, I think it's had one of the strongest ensemble casts.
Kevin, I got this picture up of the cast. It looks like it was probably filmed sometime maybe in the last episode or not. But I see this picture now, and I see D'Onofrio as the Kingpin where his hands are, and I'm just waiting for him to just close them in on somebody right in front of him.
That was obviously taken during the ball scene episode because they're all dressed up there and stuff. So yeah.
Kevin, I want to ask you specifically because we've talked about this before. We've talked about how Colin Farrell won a Emmy for the Penguin. Vincent D'Onofrio should be right there in the mix for the Emmys next year for this portrayal as the Kingpin.
Yeah, damn, Vincent is so good in this, and I feel like he was, it's a cliche, but he was born to play this role. To be honest with you, he's absolutely amazing, and they've done a really good job of casting this, including his wife. Is it how do you say her name? Is it Eilit Zur? Yeah, she's apparently one of Israel's most renowned actresses as well. She's been in a lot of stuff. She's wonderful as well. But I was looking at it going, I could have used more Tony Dalton, who plays Jack Duquesne as the swordsman. I wish we had a little bit more of him because I remember how good he was in Hawkeye TV series. And, we just got a little bit of him, we got him, of course, in one of the party scenes and stuff. But it's not a negative thing for me, but he was a standout. I just kind of wanted to see more of him too. So, yeah.
Kat, what about you? Anybody in the cast this week that was a standout for you?
Aside from the obvious people, the Kingpin and Daredevil, his wife, I think, they ran them all really well. Like, they gave them all enough time. Some people could have a little bit more time. Obviously, we spent a little more time with Muse, a little more time with Punisher would have been nice. But I don't know. I didn't really have a problem with any of them. I think, she had Hood enough time. He had his enough time. He had, and I think it ran well. Obviously, more Kingpin, more Daredevil, longer running episodes, that'd be nice too. But other than that, no, I'm very pleased with the way it's been going.
Yeah, I agree. The cast from top to bottom is absolutely phenomenal. But D'Onofrio is a force of nature on this, and I really love Charlie Cox's Daredevil.
It was interesting. It was interesting as well that I think I'm right in saying that originally they recast the role of Vanessa.
Yes, we've discussed that actually,
and then not necessarily by public demand because it was done obviously before it was broadcast. But they decided no, we're going to get the original back. No disrespect to the actress who took over the part, but I'm really glad they went back to the original casting. She really is a strong performer.
Yeah, I agree as well. But hey, Kevin, how's the Tesseract looking over there?
It's purring. Is that a good thing?
Well, we're about to find out because we're about to shift into phase 2. Okay, guys, it's time to talk a little Marvel trivia, and I found a few different things on this. First and foremost, Daredevil pulled a little bit from the comics here. Fisk orders a citywide lockdown of New York due to Bullseye's attack, mirroring recent Daredevil comics where Bullseye began indiscriminately killing civilians in Manhattan, forcing a major citywide lockdown in 2021's Daredevil number 32, with New Yorkers fearing to leave their homes as the police and Electro Natrios, who was filling in for Matt Murdock as Daredevil at the time, attempted to bring Bullseye and his 2 clones down. I don't like the idea of Bullseye clones running around out there. That's a little scary, but again, that's the great thing about the show. It subtly pulls from the comics, but it does it in ways that are just really smart and right from the comics in ways that work within the storyline. But I'm going to get everybody really mad at me because I'm about to get a certain theme song stuck in everybody's head because Inspector Gadget bullshit. The Punisher still can't get behind super heroics.
Inspector Gadget. I love that show. I love Inspector Gadget.
Frank says he has no patience for Daredevil's Inspector Gadget bullshit, referring to Matt's use of billy clubs over guns, a reference to the classic animated series and live-action Disney films. And then finally for trivia, and this is something I really like when they explored this in the past, 1,000 Suns, how Matt Murdock sees the world. Karen and Matt are talking about his vision and how he sees the world mirrors the first season of Netflix's Daredevil when Matt tells Claire Temple that his vision was truly like referring to a city on fire, or in this case with Karen, 1,000 suns. So just a few little interesting trivia things there. But not only do we have trivia, we have some Easter eggs from this week's episode. Mr. Reitzel, you want to help me out with some of these Easter eggs?
Sure. First one here. Fisk's white suit is here to stay, back to form as the Kingpin. Even after the black and white ball, Fisk keeps wearing a white suit in Daredevil Born Again, episode 9. This serves to be an important visual cue, signifying his return to form as a Kingpin and his more traditional appearance. Did they ever refer to in the comics of why he had the look that he did?
I think they've explained it, but it's been a long time since they did. I mean, he's always had it from his first appearance. So,
gotcha.
Well, up next, a little tie into some bigger MCU things because Pim Van Dyne Foundation, a major MCU company, right before all the power is shut down for the entire city, an ad for Hope Van Dyne's company in New York can be seen. The Pim Van Dyne Foundation researches all kinds of ways to improve the world using Pim particles, and a similar as was seen in Times Square in Daredevil Born Again, episode 2. Now, Kevin, if you would get Easter egg number 3, because sometimes it's good to have friends on speed dial.
Number 3 Easter egg here is got a phone call. Fans of the Netflix shows immediately knew who changed Frank's mind. Frank Castle arrives to help Matt Murdock in Daredevil Born Again episode 9, saying that he got a phone call and changed his mind about giving Daredevil a hand. Before she's revealed a few seconds later, those who watch the Marvel Netflix shows know that only Karen Page could have convinced the Punisher to help Daredevil in his final episode, or in this finale episode. Excuse me.
Yeah, as soon as he said it, I knew. I mean, but it was a great way to connect it.
I wasn't sure, but did Kat, John, did you have a feeling that it was Karen that was going to come to the rescue?
Well, if you read the comics, you would have known.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd read that the specific thing, but yeah, I think the fact that I'd heard she was going to come back before the end of the season, there was only so many minutes left, so I figured that would probably be the way to do it. Though it's still nice the way they reintroduced her back into it.
Yeah. Well, guys, I found this one and it just had me thinking here, but a darkly familiar vigilante mask, just a coincidence. During the city's lockdown, 2 of Fisk's AVTF officers kill a young looter, justifying it by pulling a mask over his head after the fact. Notably, the mask in question looks a lot like Matt Murdock's original black mask before he got the red suit and horns. Obviously, I don't know if I completely agree with that. It was Hattie's one, but still a nice little vintage throwback to the first season of Daredevil. But Kevin, they were capturing vigilantes left and right, according to the next Easter egg.
Yes, captured vigilantes, Punisher, and the Swordsman. The end of Daredevil Born Again episode 9 confirms Fisk already has vigilantes in cages, including the Punisher, who was beaten by his own AVTF fanboys, and Jack Duquesne's Swordsman.
Yeah, and just leading on to things I've been dropping hints in Daredevil, Angela Del Toro, is she going to be the new White Tiger? We see her watching the ATVF officers during the city's martial law, potentially teasing a future where she takes up her uncle's mantle as the second White Tiger, just like in the original comic books. I think this is something to keep an eye on as Daredevil gets his army going. And then lastly here, and I'm going to take this one, Kevin, if you don't mind. This was a great moment. A city without fear, tying to Daredevil's classic moniker. Daredevil confirms that he and his allies will help New York because a city without fear, connecting to Daredevil's classic name as the Man Without Fear, both in the MCU and the original Marvel comics. It's just a great way that they kind of close that out with that line, and I just really liked it. Anything in these Easter eggs, guys, real quick before we move on to Phase 3 that stood out for you? John?
Well, there was the payoff to the Netflix things, avocados at law, which I thought was a lovely little touch, which I think got mentioned way back in the Netflix series where Matt and Foggy have the little nameplate in which says avocados at law, and it's eventually paid off here, which is that it's very close to the Spanish word abogados for lawyer. So it was why was it? I don't think they ever explained it in the series. It was just like you either know it or you don't. But it was nice that there was a little nod there. I think the end of this one, and it finally kind of pay off anybody who didn't get it originally.
Kat, any of these Easter eggs or trivia that grabbed your attention?
I actually missed one of them, but I caught a few of them, and I don't really look for the Easter eggs only because I wanted to pay more attention to the episode. But when I watched it the second time, I looked for the Easter eggs. I noticed, like I said, all the ones except for the one about the mask. I didn't realize that was his original mask that he wore before he became actually Daredevil. But other than that, I did like them. It was really cool. I like the avocado one as well. I caught that one when he started to explain it. I'm like, oh, okay, now that makes more sense to me from Netflix. But yeah, that's pretty much that is it for me for the Easter eggs. I don't really see anything else I missed. You guys hit everything else I saw. So,
Kevin, how's the Tesseract looking?
Oh, it's sleeping now. That's good. We're good.
Let's wake that. Let's wake that, as the Frank would put it. Let's wake that son of a bitch up. Okay, guys, it is time to go into phase 3, and this is where we get into more of our plot analysis and get.
Real quick, you just said something about Frank. Frank made reference to coffee a couple times in this episode. Does Frank need his own brand of coffee, like Punisher brand coffee? Would you buy that?
I think a lot of people would buy that.
What would be Frank
motor oil? But I'm just saying.
What would be Frank coffee? Like, is it just straight black? Maybe
black with sugar.
Maybe Crow style, swallowing some bullets and saying "fire it up." I don't know.
Death by coffee.
Yeah. All I know is it will keep you up all night. Well, guys, let's get into some of our plot analysis and some of our bigger topics here. And the first one we got coming out of the gate is we're at the end of season 1 of Daredevil Born Again. It's been a project that a lot of people were really excited about. It's gone through a lot of different things, from delays to a lot of reshoots to being broken up into 2 seasons now. But all in all, it was here. We weren't quite sure what to expect when we went into it, but I think for a lot of people, it definitely has either matched or exceeded their expectations. So that is the first topic for everybody here on the panel. Now that it's completed, how did this first season of Daredevil Born Again meet your expectations, not only for what it was in its own, but tying back into the original Netflix series? John, I'm going to let you kick things off.
I mean, we can do spoilers and stuff now for the whole series. So that, the first big, obviously, spoiler in the first episode was the death, of Foggy. That, even if you don't know that's coming, you kind of know that it's coming, and just before it happens. It has, in a nice way, and I don't mean this in a nasty way, but there is that trope of making everybody happy, and you just introduce something, you go, oh, this. It's like when I was just watching an episode of something where somebody steps out onto the curb of a road, and I'm going like, this person's going to get hit by a car. I love the way that they kind of set that up at the beginning, to say, hey, we're not afraid to mix things up a bit. And then for me, it was just like, okay, are you going to make that worthy of the payoff? Because a lot of shows do that kind of shock value to keep, say, are you paying attention? You didn't see that coming. I'm glad to say that the series, kind of was worthy of that in the end, even though I was skeptical. Was it going to be something they stuck the landing on? But from the start, I did feel that all the returning characters were very much in the way they'd been portrayed before, but giving them a bit of a boost. Some of the new characters I thought were well introduced for such a short season. Okay, not as short as, say, this forthcoming Last of Us season or anything like that. But for a relatively short season, I think it packed in a lot there, had some nice little diversions in there as well. But everything kind of pays off, even though we don't have a firm ending. It very much is a case of, I thought, as I said before, I think the pacing was a lot better. Darker than I expected it to be, but it honored what had gone before. And that's really all I was looking for, something that didn't feel like a totally new show, which I know originally it was going to be. I've been trying to follow how things were changed, and what I understand is it wasn't so much that a lot was changed, it was that things were reorganized and things were introduced, and the emphasis shifted a little bit. But I think they produced something that honors both the source material of the comics and the Netflix series. So to be honest, I there were moments where I thought, okay, where are we going with this? Is this too much of a diversion? But there was, I thought, a good momentum throughout the season. And actually, I think it speaks to having shows that perhaps run for around 10 episodes or so, rather than some of the bloated network shows that sometimes runs at 18, 20, 23 episodes. This is, I think, I don't know how everybody else feels, but this feels more like you have a pacing that feels that like it honors the material. There's very little slack in there.
I actually agree with you. I think it really worked for this series as far as the pacing goes. Kevin, what about you? What did you feel as far as this show compared to Netflix? Did it meet your expectations, exceed it? And were you happy with the directions they took this?
I was very happy with the direction. When I look at it, it's hard to just look at it by itself and not look at the Netflix world of Marvel that we were introduced to, especially with Daredevil. Because one of the things that we were worried about as fans when they were going to kind of do this soft reboot, and term soft reboot, sequel, whatever it was that you want to say, there was a concern that they were going to write over stuff that we thought they did really, really well in the Netflix series, or they were going to, cancel stuff or say, no, that didn't happen. This is now the new Disney, and if we're going to run with these characters, this is the way we're going to go with it. But they didn't do that. It still stands. The Netflix series still stands, and they had characters back to live out through this season as well. And other than, it being a little more grittier and violent, which we'll get into in a little bit, which I had no problem with, it still felt like that a really good continuance of the Netflix series, which we all loved. And it stands out than in any other MCU TV series that Disney Plus has put out for good reasons. And so in that way, I have to say that it exceeded my expectations, because I've not been disappointed with it, and it did not step over any of the previous material that we saw on Netflix.
Kat, what about you? What were your feelings as far as how this stood with the rest of what we have with Netflix, and the fact that it ended up staying much more true to the Netflix series we got?
I really can't say much more than what Kevin and John said. I mean, I agree with both of them. It stands out on its own. It could be its own show. It pays homage to season 1 and 2 of the Netflix shows by showing hits and misses here and pieces from other episodes and mentioning other episodes. And I mean, all in all, I loved it. I love this show. They do an amazing job with it. And like I said, everything Kevin and John said, I 100% agree with. Like, no point really repeating the same thing over and over and over. We all know that it was amazing, and it stands out on its own perfectly.
This show went through a lot of tribulations. It was delayed a lot. It was supposed to be originally like an 18-episode one season thing. It's been broken up. They actually did a pretty big rewrite on the season, and when they did that, they brought in a new showrunner who was the showrunner for the Punisher series on Netflix. And I think that was the smartest thing the Marvel Studios did, bringing back some of those creators from Netflix. And yes, this did have the feel and the tie-ins to Netflix, but it also had enough of its own feel too, to where it paid tribute and tied it in, but gave you something a little different. And I think it needed to, just because of the changeover to Disney Plus and a few other things, and because we're going a different direction a little bit with Daredevil. This show exceeded my expectations in every way, and I already had high expectations for it. To me, this Daredevil series has been one of the best things to come out of the MCU since the creation of the MCU. I mean, that's for me. I think it's the highlight of their television universe, and it's been absolutely fantastic. But guys, I want to move into topic number 2, which is something about, maybe this is the most violent thing we've ever seen on Disney Plus. And Kevin, you dove deep into the research on this, and I'm going to let you take over, because you found a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, we're in the world of AI right now, guys. We see it in the art that's fooling us everywhere online. But also, I like to ask AI the questions of many things. And I asked AI, I said, why is this the most violent series we've seen? And AI Overview says Daredevil Born Again is a new Disney Plus series that is well known for its high level of violence, exceeding that of the original Netflix series. The show features extended and brutal fist-fighting scenes, including scenes where Daredevil inflicts compound fractures. The series also includes the return of the Punisher and a shocking display of violence from Wilson Fisk, including a scene where he smashes a character's head between his hands. The series also has been rated 18 plus in the UK. some more detailed breakdown of the violence, extended and brutal fist fighting. Daredevil is shown inflicting compound fractures, as we mentioned. A lot of headshots and bullet wounds and stuff like that. So there's a really cool article I did find on Empire Online saying Daredevil Born Again violence goes way past anything Netflix ever did. There are many things that stood out about Netflix's Daredevil series back when it launched in 2015. First up, it really took Marvel's blind vigilante seriously, deep diving into his psyche, his city, and his Hell's Kitchen history. Plus, it's over-the-top tier fight scenes, changing the game with no-cut hallway brawl. Then there was a unflinching violence, bloody and uncompromising, a world away from the big screen Marvel movies. And it goes on from there. And I remember there was a lot of talk about that hallway fight scene that was one big cut and how intense that it was. But I want to kind of get you guys' thoughts on the violence that increased in this series and how it just added a lot more grit to it. John, I want to go to you with this because I know you've covered a lot of movies in the past. You've interviewed a lot of people. You're a journalist yourself. You've seen a lot of this stuff. And, we watch a lot of the same shows, which has a lot of violence as well. Even the Penguin was violent as well.
Yeah.
We see a lot of it right now currently with the new season of The Last of Us. So give me your thoughts on the violence of Daredevil Born Again Season 1.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed a lot of stunt people over the years. I'm so glad that we're now going to get Oscars for people who are actually doing the stunts that are so much part of what we enjoy. One of the things that you've just mentioned with the Netflix series with Daredevil was that not groundbreaking but absolute seminal moment of the hallway, which is either one cut or is very stylishly separated. It was a fantastic, groundbreaking sequence. And the one thing I'll say about Born Again was when we saw the hallway fight between Daredevil and Bullseye early on, it wasn't quite smooth for me. There was a little bit of visual effects and AI maybe there to a point where I'm going like, it doesn't feel quite as organic as that it did in the Netflix series. And I thought at that point, is this going to be a problem with the new series, that it's going to try and do what Netflix did, but try not maybe just water it down or not be quite as convincing? And thankfully, it excelled after that. But I did think I'm not a fan of reckless violence. You can have silly, stupid violence that's over the top, the kind of cartoon violence that you don't take seriously. I'm not a huge fan where people put violence in as a substitute for plot. Look, we're going to be controversial because we had somebody swearing or somebody, killing somebody in a violent manner. When it's over the top like Deadpool, it works. But there are films I can think of where I thought you didn't need to show that. That's just in there, to garner some controversy. What I think both, particularly Daredevil Born Again has done, and I think the Penguin did as well, is show a certain consequence, which is the general good rule of thumb is if you are going to show violence, there has to be a reason for it. It can be shock value, but it can't be shock value every 5 minutes. It has to be like a oh my god moment that you don't have every 5 minutes. You have to catch your breath and go on from that. And it has to have consequence somewhere down the line for the people who perpetrate it. And there are consequences for the characters in both things like the Penguin and Daredevil Born Again. There is an emotional toll as well as a physical toll for what goes on. And what I love about this series is that is true, and also is very much a psychological toll or consequence for not necessarily the physical violence, but almost the kind of the darkness, the spiritual violence. I think it's impossible to sort of see a character like Wilson Fisk and not, and how do I pick my words carefully here, draw parallels to the way that people use power in certain ways in real life. We can all think of ways where there are consequences for people who think they're above the law. You see it in the news. You see it in every form of drama. And I think that it's a very timely series that looks at the cost of being a hero. And make no mistake, I think Wilson Fisk at the beginning of this genuinely wants and probably still at the end, you could argue, wants a New York that he thinks will be better than it is. He's just very uncompromising about what he wants to do with it. But I love that the show plays with those elements of darkness, physically, emotionally, and consequentially. I think I'm not going to say it's a first for Marvel, but Marvel I think this is the finest way they've embraced that and said, we can't, this isn't just a 2-hour movie. This is an ongoing narrative. It's a shame that Vincent D'Onofrio can't appear in the movies, from what I understand, because I think it would be really great to have a character like that in the feature film arm of it as well.
Well said. Well said. Kat, I want to get your thoughts on this. I remember when I was researching the violent, regarding this episode, there was a lot of people talking about this. And, you and I have been to movies many, many times together. We've seen a lot of violent movies together. This is pretty darn close to some of the more violent ones we've seen. Your thoughts on this season of Daredevil Born Again?
There was violence in this episode? When? Where? Why? No, absolutely violent. Violent in a good way, yes. Is this going to be groundbreaking for other Netflix shows now? I'm sorry, not Netflix shows, I apologize. Disney shows? Absolutely. If it doesn't get too much backlash, which, you can do violence, like John was saying, and be like perfect timing for that violent scene. And you can do violence like, again, if you really need to have that scene, the Kingpin crushing the guy's head was an absolute perfect show of, yes, we need that kind of violence to show that, yes, I am a badass, I am back, and I am taking control. Will that kind of scene, like I said, show for more Disney Plus episodes? Maybe get Moon Knight a little darker, maybe get, season 2 of Punisher a little darker. This all is going to be leading up. And I believe that because they did it right in the sense of not every scene needed to be violent, other shows can now take liberties and make their shows a little more violent. Sort of like when Deadpool dropped the first F-bomb with the rated R movie, now they're sort of like, oh, we can push that boundary a little more. We can do a little more now. We're not like, oh, we can't do this. We can't say that. Well, here they are doing it and saying it. So there you go. I think they did the right job. I think they did the right times. And like John said, it's done gracefully and tactfully as opposed to just more violence. Make it violent. You don't need all that.
It's interesting you say that, Kat, because Kyle, we've had a discussion talking about movies specifically in the 80s. And when Time Warp, one of the episodes we were talking about, where Disney created Touchstone Pictures to basically release more edgier films that were rated R, like Down and Out in Beverly Hills and many others. There's non-rated R films they released too. But now Disney's just like, let's bring it all, And I just gotta ask you, Kyle, from what you've seen going through this season here, is it surprised you, shocked you at all?
I think initially Disney might have been a little fearful of matching the symmetry of the Daredevil Netflix violence. You see what I did there, Mr. Mosby?
You did it without fear.
I saw that. It's like fearful.
I am actually a little surprised that they went as far as they went. I also understand now why Pedro Pascal turned down a role in Daredevil after this week's episode. He's already had enough head crushing in his life.
Yeah.
I heard it was because there was no. I heard it was because there was no little person that he had to protect all the way through a season.
Yeah, that could be too. But the violence here, we talk about with 80s. You go like look at RoboCop or something where you have the over the top violence, but it fits for what they're trying to do. The violence here, even as dark and as it was, and very powerful imagery, not only in this episode, but with the things Muse did as well. But it fits this world and it fits what they created. And I agree with John in the aspect of it doesn't feel like it's a forced violence. It's like, oh, we're just going to do this to do this. It feels like, yeah, whether you like it or not, this violence is part of this world. And it makes an impact in a good way in the aspect of you really understand the stakes that are at play now and where people's mindsets are. And I think where people will be complaining because it's on Disney Plus and it's a Marvel show, but they warned you. They've been warning people from the start. This was not going to be a kid show. This was going to be a very adult show, and it was with the violence, and it works. It's smart writing and how they did it. And I don't think it was over the top. I think it fit. Some people might feel differently, but I think in this case, the violence was the right call, and it works for Daredevil. I don't think this works for other Marvel things, but it works for Daredevil and the world that Daredevil exists in.
I think that the physical violence is important for exactly that reason, that it's a very visceral part of the MCU that Daredevil exists in. But I have to say that I think for me some of the more powerful elements were the conversational stuff. I mean, Wilson Fisk and Vincent D'Onofrio. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio we keep praising, but he is one of the best actors working today. If you look at all the roles he's played over the years, I caught Men in Black the other day, and I'm going, "Oh my God, yes, of course, Vincent D'Onofrio." And you know, and all the things, all the way back through his career, he is one of the most intense, charismatic actors who plays all these quite often disturbed characters. Who's apparently one of the nicest people out there. If you see him being interviewed, you know, he's got a reverence for the material, and he takes it seriously, but he doesn't take himself too seriously off camera. And to see him deliver some of that absolute menace with just words, some of the times, he doesn't have to be squeezing people's head like a avocado. He can absolutely be in a room, and you can be living yourself. You know, it's like, the bit before the head squeeze was almost better because you know something bad's coming. You know, all he has to do is talk, and you going, "Oh, somebody's about to die horribly at this point." And as much as Charlie Cox and everybody else, it has been so good. Vincent D'Onofrio you're right. I mean, he's got to be at least nominated for some of the major awards this year. He's such a good actor.
I got my wife into watching this show. She's not a big Marvel person, but she's caught a few of them, and there's some that she's liked and some that she hasn't liked, and I figured she would like it. She's a big horror fan, so she likes when stuff gets kind of dark, and she's been enjoying this one. And what's really funny though is last week she hit me up on Messenger when I was at work. She's like, "We have to get Hulu because we don't have Hulu, right?" I said, "I got these shows coming up. I got to watch them." So we subscribed to Hulu, and we were watching this last episode. She goes to me, "Shouldn't the show be on Hulu instead, not on Disney Plus because of how violent it is?" But speaking of the violence, so for me personally, I gave it a little edgier thing, and I didn't find the violence, just to be violent, and especially for certain scenes, I liked, obviously the head crushing scene here that we have the picture of is obviously one of the most visual violent things we've seen, but I liked what we saw in the scene in Matt's apartment where Matt and Frank are attacked, and you see the different fighting styles and justice that they leave behind. Frank is Frank, and the scenes where and you hear Matt going, "Don't, Frank," and he's killing people left and right, and Frank's like saying, you think these guys are trying to help you? And what about this guy? He pops that one guy, and it just shows you that they have their own code and their own way of doing it. But in the end, they're both looking out for each other. And, I mean, I don't know what's more violent, seeing someone get shot in the head or seeing a bone break, so it's everyone cringes at a different thing. So.
Depends on the bone.
I have to say in the past and somebody else made this observation, and it's very much true, that the Foley artists, the people who do the sound, are often underestimated because I agree with you.
Yeah.
A bone breaking, when you hear there's a moment rather than blood CGI, it's a little bit thin. But my wife, I was watching again with my wife, similar situation with you, Kevin. Not necessarily sure she'd seen the Netflix series, liked it. She likes the Marvel movies because I like them, and the times when she likes them, but she won't necessarily, drag herself to see a movie or a TV series unless I'm watching one of the Marvel ones. But even she was going like, it's been very, it's been lovely, well shot, and the sound and the cinematography. It's where all the departments have come together to give you whatever feeling that scene requires.
Yeah.
Well, guys, with all this talk of violence, I think we better move on to the next topic because I don't want violence to break out on the podcast because somebody might get inspired. I don't trust Mosby that much, He likes to. There's some beheadings that can follow him around. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Kevin, you continue your research though because for the third topic, you kind of did a rundown and got what people were thinking about ranking the episodes of Daredevil Born.
Yeah, we always like to pick our favorites and maybe mention our least if there's any. And I found a good article regarding this topic itself at it is hold on a second, here it is. CBR.com, Daredevil's Born Again Season 1's best episodes, and they've ranked them. And so this is their list there, but I want to go over the episodes here and get your guys' take on it here. So it starts off, the first episode is their number 9. That is Season 1, Episode 2, Optics. Okay. Matt Murdock gets a new client who's more than he claims to be. He's, of course, White Tiger. Fisk learns the power of optics, being Mr. Mayor. The next one we have here is the 8th episode. Their favorite is Season 1, Episode 1, Heaven's Half Hour, where we learn of Foggy's death. That is Season 1, Episode 1. Next, we have Season 1, Episode 3, The Hollow of His Hand. And that one is The Trial of Hector Ayala begins. Fisk's old business associates seek to claim his vacant mantle. And then next, we have Castle's Return to Daredevil. Season 1, Episode 4, Sic Semper Systema. And that is where Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk have darker halves fight to be unleashed. And then next we have Season 1, Episode 6, Excessive Force. We remember this one quite well. When a serial killer terrorizes the streets of New York City, the city needs a savior. And then at number 4, their favorite at number 4 is With Interest, kind of a standalone episode with the MacGuffin of with the bank and then the jewel that these thieves are trying to steal. Day in the life of Matt Murdock gets unexpectedly intense, forcing him to team up with a familiar face, that being with Miss Marvel's father. And then at number 3, they rank Isle of Joy. At his inaugural black and white ball, Mayor Fisk tightens his grip on New York City. Matt Murdock learns shocking information when an old enemy reaches out. And then number 2 is their second favorite. That is Season 1, Episode 7, Art for Art's Sake. Daredevil is back and races to stop Muse before he can kill again. Fisk rivals in the criminal underworld and takes advantage of the chaos. And their number 1 episode is the one that we've been talking about, guys, is Straight to Hell. Mayor Fisk becomes Mayor Kingpin, and Daredevil is unleashed as chaos takes over the city. So I wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts here on what is your favorite episode. You can mention the least if you want to, but which one really stands out to you? Kat, I want to start with you, being the big Daredevil fan that you are. And I know you were a little underwhelmed by this last episode, Straight to Hell, but of all the episodes mentioned, which one is your favorite?
I would say probably number 7 and number 4.
7 is Art for Art's Sake.
Yeah.
The Muse episode. Yep.
I like the Muse. That's why. 4, I think it was, which was Semper. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the one where Frank returns. Yes. Okay. Heaven's Half Hour.
3 top. Like, I give all the 3 episodes 9 out of 10 on all 3 of those episodes, just because they were so. The scene with Matt and Kingpin talking in the first episode, meeting Frank, and then Muse. Just those were all just such great scenes. And then a shout out to the bank episode, just because it was a fun break between everything. Just it was a fun sort of Murdoch episode as opposed to anything else. But those are my 3 favorites. Would be those 3.
I'm still trying to figure out where that episode ties in with the rest of it.
I don't think it tied in anyway. I think it was just one of those guys. We need to give like a little bit of filler because we only have 9 episodes. We could have done it 8, but people were like 9. Let's give them the bank episode kind of thing. Because I don't think it really filled in anywhere. Just sort of, here you go.
Okay. John, what about you? What is your favorite episodes of the season and why?
I have to say I did like the bank episode with interest, largely because what could easily have been just a filler episode, I think when you have this much intensity in a lot of other episodes, it's nice to have a catch your breath moment. Usually happens in somewhere in the second half of even of a short season. There's an episode where you go, okay, big stuff's coming, so we're just going to take a breath. And it was fun. It wasn't as dark as the other episodes. It was fun, but it was still the right vibe for the series. It wasn't like a sudden screeching left-hand turn, as a filler sometimes is. And all the other more overt connections to the MCU, the Ms. Marvel connections and things like that, I thought were nice. I like the Muse episodes, but I did feel it was foreshortened a little bit. I get the feeling that if the series had run just a little bit differently, format-wise, we might have had Muse for a little bit longer. I think the point was that you have a character here that's an important story factor, but doesn't last very long, in all honesty. Well, I mean, it's really, apart from a little bit of references, he's really only in it for 2, maybe 2.5 episodes. And he's gone.
He'll be back.
When he could be. Almost every character we've seen, dead or not, could be back, according to the comics. But obviously the first episode, there's a certain amount of shock value in there. That was going to be almost like the yardstick for people coming back and judging what the series was going to be. And I thoroughly enjoyed the opener. I thought that was really good. I thought it was a smart move, scheduling wise, not just to have one episode out that week, so that you kind of got a feeling of people going, okay, you need to sort of see a couple of episodes at least, 2 or 3 episodes to understand what we're doing. Certain amount of shock value in there. As I said, the fight was good, but I wasn't quite sure if that was going to be symptomatic of not special effects, but just in that less organic way. But again, everything improved. It's hard. There's no duds in there, and for something that runs less than 10 episodes, it's still unusual, particularly for a Marvel Marvel series, to say that there was no flab in this whatsoever. Yes, with interest was that kind of pause, but it still fitted in. It felt organic, so there wasn't any wasted episodes in almost every Marvel series I've seen. I've gone, oh, that episode stands out as either being a bit lazy or just filler or just weird pacing where something you feel, oh no, that interrupts the momentum of it. There's been really nothing. This has been the leanest, smartest Marvel show to date. And they've done a lot of good stuff, but the pacing has often been a problem for me. There was no bad episode. There were episodes I liked more than others, but not by a huge margin. Not by a huge margin. As I say, there's been something in every episode where I've gone, that's clever, that's smart, that's interesting, that's keeping me involved. I can't think of a Marvel show where I've been able to say that so far.
It's a good point. I didn't feel there was really any duds either. Kyle, what about you? What episodes do you rank as your favorites?
Well, I'm actually a big fan of the bank episode. I thought it was just fun. It was a little bit of a break in things, and having those ties into the MCU, I think, was a good move. I want to say this: my favorite scene in the whole series is the scene in episode 1 with the diner between Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio as Matt Murdock on the King.
Yeah,
the homage.
It had that heat feeling with those two actors. So yeah,
exactly.
But as far as favorite episodes in general, episode 4, Six Semper Sistema, with returning Frank Castle into the fold, was excellent. I liked episode 6, Excessive Force, where Matt redons the Daredevil suit, and I was a fan of the finale. I think the finale gave us quite a bit, and seeing Frank back as the Punisher helped a lot, and just the chemistry, seeing Karen Page back, and the chemistry between all those actors, and even the chemistry between Barenthal and Charlie Cox is so good. I think it worked for all the episodes.
Yeah, Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I will say that the only thing I was slightly disappointed with that in the finale was the kind of, and Bullseye escaped off camera. I'm going like, you set him up as as like the major sort of tour de force for the penultimate episode, and then it's, curses, Bullseye escaped. And for me, that was just like, really? I'm betting there's a scene somewhere that's on the editing floor, where you see more of that. It felt like a little throwaway, but that was the only thing I thought. I loved what they did with Bullseye. I just thought that was a little bit too convenient. I know we'll have him back, but it just felt a little bit, show don't tell. That was my only quibble.
Yeah. I believe for me, I think that my favorite episode is the last episode, Straight to Hell, just because you really get the team up with Daredevil and Frank, and it really kind of left you wanting more, whether you're disappointed by that or not. I thought that was definitely my favorite. Art for art's sake, I did want to see more of Muse. I hope that we do get to see more. I just thought he was just a crazy villain,
He's gonna be back.
Cat is betting money on it.
Cat is dying on that hill.
Yes, he is.
Well, I mean, again, if you read the comments, he'll be back.
Okay. Well, I hope he does. I hope you're right. That'd be great because
Kyle knows.
I'd love to see more of that sicko. Also, the first episode was definitely a great way to start off a series. And like you said, John, I completely agree that there was no duds. They're all watchable, all rewatchable, and done very, very well. So, all right, Kyle, I'm gonna turn it over to you for the next topic.
Yeah, because guys, we're going to talk about what's next, and the season finale set up a couple of things, including a key thing that I think is worth discussing is we need an army. The exciting potential for Daredevil season 2. We see this panel from the classic comic of the army Daredevil forms in the comics when he goes to take on the Kingpin. Karen convinces Daredevil to bide his time due to his wounds, and they need to come up with a better way of saving the city. Matt agrees, confirming that they need an army. This sets up a very exciting future for Daredevil Born Again season 2, one that could feature many more New York MCU vigilantes beyond the allies shown at the finale's end, just like when Mayor Fisk was first elected in the comics. Kevin, I'm going to just say this right now. This opens the door to bring back characters from the Defenders in a big way.
I hope so, because I think that they established quite a cool world, with Daredevil. And, we got to get the Defenders back, man. Because I got to tell you, I was a little underwhelmed by this series. I thought that Sigourney Weaver's character was underused, and I'm not going to say I was disappointed. I just thought it could have been better. But yeah, man, let's get Luke Cage back in here, man. Let's get Jessica Jones, and yes, I'll even go with Iron Fist. Let's bring him back, and the Punisher. Let's do it as well. So, I'm one of the people that actually liked Iron Fist. I'm just going to put that out there. I know a lot of people hated Iron Fist, but I thought it was an interesting story. With that all said, bring at least some of them back. I'm going to shoot for Cat wants a little bit of Moon Knight action there. That would be cool. I like to see obviously Frank Castle back, but give me some Luke Cage and Jessica for sure. I would love to see them come back.
John, what about you? You think we're going to see some surprise faces for season 2 as Daredevil builds his army?
I think there's huge potential for it. I mean, that's the tease, isn't it? But whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. I mean, there's been rumors for a while that they were going to bring some of the fellow Defenders in. One of the big entertainment sites, I can't remember if it was Variety, TV Line, or Deadline or whatever, was saying, "Oh yeah, look, there's Luke Cage cameo in the finale as the police." I'm going like, no, you've completely the right. It's not Mike Coulter. It's another character which might be called Luke at one point. But no, obviously none of them have been hinted at. I mean, as a large MCU, obviously this series, but I don't. It feels like there's been hints dropped that we could see this. If there is the Defenders coming back, it's been kept reasonably quiet. There's been hints in the press that people might be doing something, but there's not been any of the images that we've seen of the filming of season 2. There's been no Defenders leaks as far as I can tell. There's rumors and that's it. We know something's for certain from some of the leaked photographs of filming. It would be good to see him. Certainly it would make sense in the tone of Daredevil, I think, to have some familiar faces come back up. In fact, it would be almost distracting if some didn't, or at least some weren't referenced. You're not liable to get Spider-Man, okay. but there's a lot of MCU stuff that you could throw in there. Again, I would settle for mentions, but it would seem silly not to reference people who would be obvious candidates for this army. I mean, the people they've got already are pretty impressive. I like the fact you see some of the recurring faces from this season appearing again. It's all to play for. The leaks so far about season 2, a few things there, but not a huge amount for those who aren't familiar with the comics to say exactly what will happen. Again, if you know the source material, you sometimes get ideas of where various high-profile series will be going. But I don't know. I think there's all to play for. This felt like a very strong season. I hope that the next season, will be just as good. But I'm not 100% sure right now, other than a few leaked things, what we're going to see. And I kind of like that. I kind of like not knowing how they're going to play with it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Kat, what about you? Who do you think we might see as far as part of Daredevil's army, and what opportunities do you think they have here?
I think we're going to see everyone you showed in that picture except Misty Knight and Spider-Man, and replaced it with Punisher. And there was hearsay, I don't know if it's true or not, but he might even incorporate the Hand to help him. So that would be kind of cool to see them come back, which could bring Elektra back as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you dropped two names. One name that I wouldn't be surprised to see Elektra brought back. Echo is definitely somebody who's coming back.
Oh, absolutely.
The Echo in season 2 of Daredevil. I think
everyone in that picture except for Misty Knight and Spider-Man, and replace it with Elektra and Punisher.
What about She-Hulk? I mean, Daredevil did the walk of shame away from her place. Why not?
Yeah,
she would be too overpowered.
Yeah. I think she's more interested in smashing Daredevil than she is smashing Kingpin.
Yeah. could very well be. But we know what is coming next in the future, because this is confirmed. It looks to be out sometime towards the end of the year. Guys, we're getting a Punisher special. And Kevin Feige has talked about this. He loves John Bernthal as the Punisher. Obviously, the mid-credit scene sets this up. I can't imagine it's not going to be a continuation of this story as far as Frank is concerned, and probably set up some things that we might see in Daredevil Born Again season 2. But I'm just, I love Bernthal as the Punisher. He's quickly become my favorite iteration of the Punisher, and I was a big Thomas Jane fan of the Punisher as well. But I think Bernthal has just nailed it. I'm curious to what you guys think. This is the next step of this storyline. So, what do you think Marvel has in line with the Punisher, John?
I mean, we know that Bernthal was working on the script as well as as well as acting in it, which is going to be interesting to see what he comes up with. I suspect that, I think they are filming already, or maybe they haven't. The production is underway, as it were. So even if they haven't filmed anything yet, they know kind of what they're going to be doing. But I suspect that they will have looked at the success of Born Again and said, okay, we can do this, where we weren't sure we could do that. Just how far you can push things. This is a very violent character with the Punisher, more so than Daredevil. Daredevil is very much gritty, but Punisher is violent. There is a violence in there that isn't pulled back by the sensibilities that Matt Murdock has, where he doesn't want to be violent but will be. Frank is very much a case of somebody who really is going, I've crossed that line. I'm going to be as violent as I need to be, and I'm going to sleep perfectly well at night about it. So I suspect that we're probably going to, I suspect that there will be more violence in the Punisher side of things than perhaps. Well, it's only a one-off special, so it'll be interesting to see how they pass that out over, say, 90 minutes or 80 minutes. That's very different from a season where you kind of earn the violence. This is going to be, I suspect the Punisher will be violent pretty much throughout. Not saying that it won't be without consequence, and certainly it shouldn't just be 90 minutes of beating the crap out of people, but it is going to be more of that ilk rather than a Disneyfication of it. So I'm interested to see how they do that, how they make the balance. It will have to be a subtly different balance than I think than Daredevil's been, but worthy again. And also, you're going to have to probably have that situation, particularly because we saw the mid-scene credits. You've really got to do like a detour that brings him back in, probably for Daredevil season 2. So it will be, what story are you going to tell for the Punisher, which allows you to say, well, actually, and he's going to be straight back into Daredevil season 2. With not much time passed. Why isn't Fisk going to be necessarily the priority in the Punisher movie, in the Punisher TV movie, which I suspect he won't be, because they'll want to do something else. But it will be interesting how they start. As again with the comics, is how do you dovetail lots of excellent stories so they don't blatantly contradict each other and they kind of cohesively fit into different corners of the same universe.
Kat, what about you? What do you think we got looking forward to with the Punisher special?
I think it's gonna. My guess is it's going to be him versus the Punisher fake people. Starting with him as he escapes, sort of like maybe giving us what happened after he breaks that guy's arm and pulls him through into the cell so he can escape, and then maybe like a few months later he's out hunting them and going from there and trying to figure out what's going on, and then leading into maybe possible a brief like ending cameo with him and Daredevil showing up going, hey, this is happening, we need you over here, and then that's the reason why he's coming back to season 2 of Daredevil. But I do think violent,
exactly what Kat said then, and perhaps I should have made that reference earlier on as well, that I think one of the really great things about the show is the way it has addressed that. Now, there was a big real life controversy with police officers, where some police officers wearing the Punisher logo that broke in the media, and even got Marvel Comics to redesign the Punisher logo because they're saying he's not a hero. He's a tragic figure. He's a violent figure, and no police officer should ever, say that this is any kind of role model. And I think they very interestingly and very straight to camera really address that particularly in the finale with that line of police officers dressed in Punisher stuff, and the Punisher's going, you don't know anything about me. If I'm your hero, you are way out of line. And that would be, as I think Kat picks up on that, I think that would be a fascinating angle to explore even more deeply in a TV movie. It'll be interesting to see if they do that, but I agree with Kat. I think that would be fascinating to go and see that.
Kevin, I know you're a Punisher fan. You've enjoyed all the movies, and I know you enjoyed John Barenthal's version of Punisher. What do you think they could do with him?
Yeah, big fan of John Barenthal's version of Punisher. And when I hear special, it makes me worried. I don't want an hour special. I want like an hour and a half, 2 hour special, if we're not going to get a movie or a series. So I hope we get a nice fleshed out role here. But it's funny, the way they painted the Punisher, John Barenthal's character, and basically in the movies we've seen prior, he's not really a team-up kind of guy. Maybe they've done that in the comics. I'm sure that they have. But the way that they're painting the Netflix to the Marvel or the Disney Plus series of Daredevil, I don't see him coming in and teaming up. Obviously, it was nice to see him and Daredevil in this particular episode do that. But I would like them to dive really deep into his past a little bit. I know they've touched on it in the TV series, but I want to be reminded of why he's in the pain that he is and why he dispenses the type of justice that he does. And I would like, we've seen him get close to some other people and help some other people in the TV series and stuff. I'd kind of like to see something more of that. Maybe someone that is tied to I'm just going to call it the Netflix era of Marvel that carries over into the Disney Plus version of it. And I want to see, I don't want to just see him be, violent and angry. I want them to dive into it because, he says, like, you don't know my pain. You don't know what I've been through and why I do what I do, to the cop fanboys of Punisher. And John Barenthal is such a good actor, and he has a lot of range, and I think that he loves portraying the character, and I think this would be a good opportunity, and I hope he has some say in the character because I feel like he's made it his own, and that he should be able to say, hey, I think we should explore this part of Frank Castle and just let him cook. Let him cook.
I'm just going to say, I really think their approach is to take the approach that they did with Daredevil Born Again and address some of these topics that directly affected the Punisher in real life. And I think that's the route they will go with this special, because I think there's a lot more meat on that bone to attack. And I think it's something that they could tie into the storyline very well. But I can't wait for it. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But guys, it is time to shift into our final phase. And yes, we have been talking about Daredevil Born Again, the season finale, episode 9, Straight to Hell. I want to, first of all, just thank everybody who came on. You guys brought some great insight to this. Kevin, you've managed the Tesseract very well this episode, I must say.
It's whispering to me right now, and it actually agrees with Kat. It wants more Muse. So there you go. If that's, you got the power of the Tesseract with you there, Kat. So just so you know.
Now, normally in this phase, we would talk about predictions and things like that, but we just kind of talked about that. So what I want to give everybody is a chance to just their final thoughts on the season and this experience of Daredevil Born Again, because I think it's a fairly unique experience too, to come from one hit show, move it to another network like this, and not being sure what was going to happen, especially in the world of streaming and going from one streamer to another. I think it's been a very unique experience. John, I'm going to start with you. I want to thank you for being on for this episode. We always love having you on, but give us your final thoughts on this first season of Born Again.
Well, thank you. I always love being here. Yeah, it was a series where in some ways it was theirs to lose, because obviously, as we've said, the Netflix stuff was a standard, a benchmark that so many people really did sort of say this is like a new standard of the kind of storytelling within the MCU. So in some ways they could only fail. It would be so easy to get it wrong, to water things down, and they didn't. As I say, the very early concerns pretty much washed away. It's not the blueprint for everything Marvel has to do next. It suits Daredevil. If they came up with another show, each show has to find its own pentameter, its own mood, and its own vibe. But there's an awful lot to be learned from this show, which is know what your character is, know the type of stories that you're going to tell, cast well, almost as important, have your supporting cast well. Have the courage of your convictions, I think, which is, again, if it's a violent character, don't try and wash it down. Don't try and shove violence into something, another show comes along. Don't just say, hey, violence sells. It's great to take the time. I think that the series ultimately benefited from over a year, effectively almost 2 years in some ways, of delays from when it was first announced. Listen to what the fans want to a point. You don't have to be a slave to that. But, like in this case, people said, hey, we want Foggy, in there. We don't want him, as we learned, I think later on, that the original plan was for him to die off screen. There would have been hell to pay for that. They wanted Karen back. Look at in Somcast. Is it too big? Is it too small? I think this was a pretty decent sized ensemble. Matt benefited from another episode or so, or maybe just a few less characters, but they were all good. This was a show where it could have all gone horribly wrong, and it went fantastically right. Now, that's not catching lightning in a bottle. It's difficult to do, and you never know in advance whether a show is going to be just perfectly timed. This is a perfectly timed show. You've got everything. You've got timely subject matter, great cast, great people with passion behind it. There's never a guarantee that you're going to have a hit show, however much talent you have. Sometimes it's just that X factor of everything combining. But there's a lot to be learned, I think, from this show. Whenever they consider any shows going forward, it has to be, let's not rush this. Let's not announce it and rush something into production. Let's, where we can, and I know the industry doesn't work that way, but where we can, take the time. Let's do a year of pre-production if it's physically possible. Let's start the ball rolling and get things right and not be afraid to tweak things as we go along. Again, I'll say the pacing has been off on a lot of Marvel shows, and that has been a huge stumbling block. Here, that's one of the things they can tick off the list as getting right. There's a lot going to be happening on Marvel on the big screen in the next couple of years, and everybody's talking the Avengers movies and stuff as the be all and end all. In some ways, Marvel knows that they've got the Russo brothers who are very, very good at what they do. They've got to get the TV stuff right. The films only come out maybe twice, 3 times a year. If they're really building a universe and an empire, they've got to have that momentum in TV as well. And it's not just the quantity, it's got to be the quality. And this is a good benchmark. It's a good thing that people care. I hope whatever the next thing is, because I'm not quite sure what the next thing on the horizon will be. I know there's a lot of projects. I'm not sure which is the next. Maybe Ironheart. It's going to be interesting to see whether they can learn from what they've learned this time.
Kat, what about you? You were incredibly excited for this. You basically made Deadpool-like threats to us to make sure you were on this podcast. What was your overall feelings on this first season of Born Again?
I'm ready to watch it for the 3rd time. How's that sound?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I've watched every episode twice except for the last one, because I watch it and then I do this and then I watch it again to see what you guys say. Oh, I caught that. I caught this. I didn't catch that. I caught this. And then I'll watch it again. The whole season, again, tribute to the first and second of Netflix. Great episode. Absolute standalone. I mean, you could watch this without even watching and just be a little bit confused on some things, but it easily can stand on its own, and then creating the whole new path for the Marvel Disney Plus TV shows that will be coming out in the future and probably long after I'm gone, unfortunately.
I mean, I don't know how everybody feels, but it feels like we're living in another golden age of television right now. In the next month alone, we've had Daredevil, we've got the Return of the Last of Us, we have Doctor Who, we have Andor, and those are just for the hype. But there's other stuff coming up on the horizon very, very quickly as well. For me, I like network television, I do, but my God, the stuff that's coming through streaming platforms at the moment is phenomenal. Not just in the quality, but in the range of stuff. It used to be just HBO or the occasional Netflix. I don't have enough hours in the week often to watch everything that I want to watch, and that's so different than where we were a couple of years ago. The things that I want to see that I've had to put aside because I'm going like, I can't keep up to that while I'm watching this. And there's things that are starting to just be on the edge of the horizon now, coming over the summer. It's a good time to be alive and a fan.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Kevin, what about you? Daredevil Born Again, and you loved the original Netflix series. We're at our end of season 1. We got a little bit of a wait for season 2, but it's been a ride.
It's interesting. I've really enjoyed this series, and one of the aspects that I've enjoyed about this series is the mob side of things, and that's why, I've been, really enjoying Vincent D'Onofrio's portrayal of Kingpin, and we had that wonderful mob storyline through Penguin as well, and you're going to get me with a good mob movie and mob TV series. And I just started a new one called Mobland. With Pierce Brosnan and Tom Hardy, which has been great right out of the bat, and it's a Guy Ritchie vehicle too. He produces it and has directed the first 2 episodes. So if you're into mob life, check it out. This is, like I said, it's exceeded my expectations. I'm really happy with the feel of it, the grittiness of it, and just the overall drama. There's been really good character moments between certain characters in the series that I've really enjoyed as well, and it's I'm a little sad I got to wait a whole year for the next one. It's kind of, I thought they were kind of like at first originally they were doing 1 and 2 together, right? What's that?
I'll miss you guys.
Oh, we'll have a few. There'll be a few Disney Plus shows popping up between now and then. So.
I know.
I wanted.
It's only a year, though.
John, but I want it now. I want it now.
No, but HBO is very much like,
I'm just going to say this.
HBO is like 6 years' time, you'll have the next season for something.
Oh, no.
It's just like,
if HBO can get the second season of their newest popular show, The Pit, out in 8 months, come on, guys. You can. Yeah. If HBO is beating you, you got a problem.
I know. Yeah. But anyway, I love it. It's been a great ride. What about you, Kyle?
For me, this has exceeded all my expectations. Daredevil was my favorite Netflix series and one of the favorite things that has come out of Marvel Studios since they started. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are tour de force in these roles, and they will always be these roles. Just like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, I can't see anybody else playing these roles at this point. This show was amazing. The symmetry in the story of Born Again through the Kingpin and Born Again through Matt Murdock was phenomenal. The creepiness of Muse, the power of change and the power that Wilson Fisk had and how he evolved, how Matt evolved. Everything they did about the show was right. And it just shows you the creative force when you continue with having people in place who understand the product they're putting out. And bringing in some of those people from the original Netflix series to be part of this was the best move that they could have done. And it paid off immensely. I cannot wait for season 2. It's going to be a long wait, but bring it on. I'm looking very forward to it. And I'm just truly excited. And I really hope we are at the start of kind of a resurgence for Marvel in the products they put out. I'm very excited for Thunderbolts. The new Fantastic Four trailer that just dropped got me excited for that film. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with these big projects they have coming out, with some old friends returning, not only to be on the acting side of it, but behind the director's chair as well. People who are very familiar with the Marvel products. So it will be interesting to see what happens. And we are going to be covering all those things here on the True Believers podcast, where we cover everything here on the MCU with everything going on. The Fandom Podcast Network will be busy with True Believers. Again, I want to thank everybody of the law firm of Wagner, Reitzel, and Cat, and our special guest. We might put his name up on the wall before it's too long, but we have bylaws we have to follow. But Mr. Mosby, thank you so much. And be sure to check out his book on all things Highlander, Fearful Symmetry. You can find it on Amazon. You owe me $2 now, John, for this episode, so we'll just add that to your bill. Everybody out there, thank you so much for following us while we cover Daredevil True Believers. We're going to be back very soon. We got Thunderbolts around the corner. I got a feeling we're going to have a Marvel series to talk about over the summertime. We just haven't announced it yet, but lots of things to be excited about. And of course, everything here at the Fandom Podcast Network. Again, go to our homepage at fpnet.podbean.com. Follow us on our YouTube channel. Please give us a like and a subscribe and tell your friends. Hit the QR code. It'll take you right to fpnet.podbean.com. We're very proud of everything we've done. And you can follow us all over social media, including our newest presence on Blue Sky, Kevin.
Yes, at FanPod Network. Check us out on Blue Sky there.
Of course, you can find us on Twitter, on Facebook with the True Believers group, all those great places. You can find myself, Kyle, on Twitter at AKyleW. You can find me on Blue Sky at AKyleW. And you can find me on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. John, where can people find you? Because you always have something cooking. I know you always have something.
I usually have something cooking. There's a lot of sort of things I'm working on at the moment, so probably later summer I'll have more stuff going on. But Facebook under my name, Blue Sky as well. I'm not on Twitter anymore. But I will alert people where, so they can avoid me or find me as they wish.
I feel like because it's WrestleMania weekend, we should be saying, like, can you smell what the Mosby is cooking?
Well, speaking of coming out shortly, John joined me and you and our buddy Norman, and we taught. Well, actually, Kyle, you couldn't make that one if I remember right.
Planet Taxium got me that one.
That's right. But we did a special Couch Potato Theater called Be Kind and Rewind on the 2012 Disney film John Carter. So make sure you pay attention to the network because it is dropping soon.
And Kat, where can people find you on social media?
Facebook, Instagram, I think I'm still there. Blue Sky, Twitter, I think as well. Everything at Static Cat 1.
Or you just leave a stack of chimichangas outside your door. Cat will find it.
Well, Cat, I'll find that too.
That too. And of course, Kevin, where can people find you on social?
The way Cat was rattling that stuff off, you can tell he's not very active on this.
So I'm active once, twice a day, maybe. Kevin is active once or twice a minute.
This is true.
I would say not for you guys.
Just yesterday, was it 46? Something like that? I posted donut.
You can find me.
Anybody who's that regular needs to see a doctor.
Lots of fiber, lots of internet fiber. You can find me on X, Instagram, Threads, Discord, Letterbox at Spartan_Phoenix, and on Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix.
And of course, too, you can always go to the TeePublic store on tpublic.com, look for the Fandom Podcast Network or the title of your favorite show on the Fandom Podcast Network, and find the gear, including the True Believers gear, and of course, great t-shirts, mugs, hats, phone cases, backpacks, so much at TeePublic now. They're just constantly growing it out. We do get a little kickback because Tesseract Power ain't cheap. I'm sorry. I don't really want to have to go buy another Infinity Stone. It's really not in the budget, and some of those kind of scare me. I'm looking at you, Soul Stone. I don't really want to deal with Red Skull, but anyway, guys, again, this has been the True Believers Podcast on the Fandom Podcast Network, where we cover everything in the MCU, and we've been talking about Daredevil Born Again Season 1 finale. We've had a great time. Again, Daredevil Born Again, Episode 9, Straight to Hell, which is where we're going to be waiting for Season 2 to come out. So, it's been a blast. Thank you to everybody on the panel for your contributions all through this season. It's been so much fun to talk about. I know you'll all be back for Season 2 of Daredevil. Mr. Mosby, I know we're going to probably have you back on the network sometime soon to talk a little Last of Us, too. So I'm excited about that. But for now, guys, we are going to get out of here. And as always, we like to close out Excelsior, True Believers. And until next time, make ours Marvel.